everybody. This is Strategywizard again. This is going to be the third part of my Intro to Modern Board Gaming video series. Here I'm going to be talking about games that replace the old classic games that we all grew up playing. I mean, Monopoly, Risk, Stratego, whatever it is that you grew up playing, I'm going to tell you, you'd be amazed that there are games that give you that same feeling, that same theme, but they do it so much better, so much better. So, at least in my opinion, I'm not going to say that everyone will agree with me, but in my opinion it does. And in my collection is fairly sizable, I think, and somewhat nerdy and geeky for sure, but in the scheme of things, for people who are really into the hobby, my collection is not really that big. But I'm going to show you how a relatively small collection can give you a lot of great examples of games that do better than the games that they seem to come from or take their, I guess, their mechanics from. And to start off, we'll do Clue. I mean, most of us have played Clue. You're trying to find who the killer is, with how they do it, with what weapon, you know, where they do it at. And it's a lot of dice rolling, totally luck-based. And thematically, it doesn't make a lot of sense because you're all working together in a sense to try to find out who the killer is, but you're not really on the same team. Why wouldn't you be? Why would you not try to solve it together? Well, this game, Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, is a perfect example of a game that it gives you a cooperative feel because everyone is a good guy except for, depending on how many players you play with, there's a killer and there could be an accomplice. So in this case, unlike in Clue where you're trying to discover who the killer is, and it's not a player. Here, the killer is a player. One of the players is the killer, and they're trying to hide their identity, which automatically makes it way more engaging and interesting. But the other players, they're all trying to figure that out, but there's one other player who's unique, who is the forensic scientist. The forensic scientist is trying to basically give clues to the other players so they can find out which one of them is the killer. And that dynamic is very interesting, very, I mean, captivating and tense, very tense as the clues keep coming and people get closer to deducing who the bad guy really is. It's a lot of discussion at the table, it's very interactive, and it's a fascinating game. To me, it basically takes Clue and makes it more rational in the sense that you're working together, but it makes it more interesting because one of you is the bad guy. So wow, the level of intrigue is just unfathomable. So really recommend this as a great solution for upgrading Clue. But I also recommend Mysterium. I have the two expansions, at least the two that I know of. I don't think that's the only two out right now. And of course the base game of Mysterium. And Mysterium is a game that, what it does, it's similar to Deception and Murder in Hong Kong in the sense that it's cooperative. And in this case, it's 100% cooperative. Everybody's on the same team. But there's still one person who's totally unique, and that is the ghost. In this case, someone plays the ghost of the person who died. And they're passing out vision cards, which are very abstract images that the players have to use to figure out what card it depends on, it could be person, could be place, could be murder weapon. I'm trying to get them to guess a certain person, place, or weapon. And trying to do that it's challenging for the person who's the ghost because giving a clue, a very abstract image that could have lots of different components, to try to get one of the players to say, oh, it's this guy I'm trying to go after. It can be challenging. And it all depends on the psychology and trying to pick out, will they figure out what I'm trying to get them to see. It's very fun for that reason because everyone's working together. So if you figure out your clue really quick, because sometimes you'll get a card that just hits the nail on the head, and one of the psychics who is trying to figure out who the murderer is, he'll get his card or cards, because you can get more than one. They'll go, oh, I know which one mine is, it's obvious, and then they can help the other players. So you're all working together trying to use these vision cards to come to an answer, and that cooperative aspect, again, to me, is a great thing for a mystery type game where you're trying to find out who the murderer is. So both of these, Deception, Murder in Hong Kong and Mysterium, I think are great ways to replace and upgrade Clue. So now we'll move to Stratego, which Stratego is a game that was my favorite classic board game by far. One, it's relatively quick in comparison to games like Monopoly and Risk, where it can just take forever. Here, Stratego, you're just straightforward. You set up, the setup's a little intensive. That's really the main downfall of the game. But you get yours, but that's also part of the fun. You do your setup where you have all your pieces, only you can see what they are, and you have them where you want them, and then you lift it up so the divider so you can get ready to play, and you're trying to get your 10 in there to get a lot of good kills, but you're also trying to get your spy in the right place so you can kill your opponent's 10, etc., etc. Place your bombs in the right place. Really, really enjoyed that growing up. But these two games, in my opinion, take that formula and upgrade it into something far, far better. So Thunder and Lightning is a card game that it somehow, you wouldn't think a card game could do such a good job of being superior to Stratego, but it does. And the reason why, the cards, you end up playing them in a formation 3 wide by up to 4 deep. So you have 3 columns basically, and you keep on adding cards. You can add them to the front, you can add them to the back or the middle. So you're shifting your formation as you go along, but you're putting them face down. So just like in Stratego, you can't know what your opponent has until someone attacks or does something to reveal something. So you have that hidden information, but you're able to change it on the fly. And what's really exciting is ultimately, there's a few ways to win, but the main way that you're trying to win is to eliminate a card, a specific card out of your opponent's deck. Now your decks are identical, so you both have a card. They're identical functionally. The artwork is different in some cases, like in the case of Odin's Crown and Odin's Ring. Functionally, they're the same. One person's playing Thor, one person's playing Loki, but one of them has the crown, one of them has Odin's Ring. And if you get that card out of your opponent's hand, or if they placed it on in their formation, if you destroy it there, then you win. So at first you cannot win. There's no way to win the game at the beginning, but as you play, eventually you will draw that card. And once you get it, you have 2 possibilities. You can try to keep your hand size really thick, because if they have a Raven card, they can try to take it out of your hand. So you're trying to control that. But also, if they come in and if you place it down, there's ways they can try to attack the back to try to figure out if you hit it back there. So there's a lot of dynamics going on in that game. There's so much strategy in trying to decide, should I use this card right now to use this special ability? Should I try to focus on attacking down on the board? And there's so much going on. It's an amazing 2-player game. Definitely recommend this as an upgrade to Stratego. It's a card game, I know, but wow, does it work. Excellent. Now, Battle Lore 2nd Edition. This is one that also, in my opinion, it really puts Stratego kind of out of the realm of being worth playing. And the reason why, Battle Lore 2nd Edition, it gives you the setup just like Stratego does. You set up your forces, not nearly as many. It's a few smaller groups of units that you have, but you set them up secretly. But whenever you reveal, you actually reveal what you have. The placements is secret, and the actual, everything's secret until you reveal, but then everyone knows what everyone has. Then you're like, oh, okay, now I see what's on the battlefield, which honestly is more logical than Stratego, because in Stratego, why would you not know what someone is? Or why would you not see a bomb there? Why would you, unless it's a mine, of course, or the flag. Why can I not see the flag out there? And why do I not know this is your general? That doesn't really make sense. And here, once you've secretly decided your formation, then you see it. Everyone knows what the battlefield is, and even the terrain changes because you have cards that you can choose for your side, and that card gives you some special effects, and it also decides how the terrain is laid out. So every game is totally different. It's amazing. Now it's dice-driven combat, which is very different, but the fact that you get that same secret hidden layout of your troops, and you're trying to still go crush your opponent and everything, and the fact that the terrain is more than just 2 little squares of water. There's hills and trees and blah, and all this good straight stuff. It just does a great job. So Battle Lore 2nd Edition, definitely recommended as an upgrade to Stratego. Okay, next, here's a few small ones. 20 Questions. People like 20 Questions. Insider, and there's another game called Werewords, which I do not own, are both great ways to upgrade a game of 20 Questions. 20 Questions isn't really a board game, but the fact that you have a board game or card game that actually amps it up, that's great. And the way this works is somebody's going to be is going to know the word, of course. You always have to have that in a game of 20 questions. The other players are all trying to figure out that word, and they can ask as many questions as they want, so it's not limited to 20. But one of the players gets to know what the word is, and that player is the insider. What happens is, as you play, you'll be fighting to figure it out, asking questions nonstop, trying to guide yourself. But a lot of these questions, I mean, a lot of the words are really hard to figure out. They're not easy. It's not like horse or tiger. I mean, a lot of them are abstract, like picnic or something. So in this game, it's very challenging. But the insider knows the answer already, but they don't want to give it away, because at the end, if someone else, let me go back a step. If nobody gets it, everyone loses. But if somebody guesses it, everybody else gets to try to figure out who the insider was. And if they succeed, the insider loses. If they don't succeed, only the insider wins. So this makes 20 questions very intriguing and very tense. So that's one I recommend for that. And then, Fox in the Forest. This is one I recommend to upgrade for trick-taking games. Now, that could be hearts, spades, whatever trick-taking game you might play. And what makes Fox in the Forest interesting, though, and this is why it can't really replace all of them, but it's only for 2 players. But that is something that's very unique, to have a good trick-taking game that's only for 2 players, but it does it effectively because there's special powers on the cards. There's only 3 suits, and there's a certain number of cards that don't get dealt out. So you don't have perfect information as far as what cards are out there and available, and the special abilities can kind of change the game as you play, but it works well. Even in spite of all that, you'd be amazed how much control you have over how many tricks you take. And in this game, getting no tricks or very few tricks is great, but also getting a lot of tricks is great. But if you get somewhere in the middle, or if you get too high, that's very bad. So you're trying to get a fine balance of how many tricks you take. It just does such a good job. I'm surprised that a 2-player trick-taking game can be so good. But if you want to get a good trick-taking game that's got great artwork and a little bit of a theme to it, this is one I highly recommend. Now, another game that people typically have in their collection is Uno. A lot of people play Uno, and it's a really popular game. I mean, you see it everywhere, Walmart, Target, wherever. But the game takes Uno in a different direction. With Uno, of course, you're trying to get rid of all your cards, and you're trying to hurt other people by playing skips and whatnot, or draw 4. And in here, everyone's cooperating. Everyone has their hand of cards, but you're going to keep drawing cards as you play, and you're trying to play all the cards in the deck together, but you cannot communicate with each other than just vagaries. It's the theme of the game, as you can see, it's a little kind of grim and dark looking. I think is the idea that maybe something on the lines of Saw, or something where you're all trapped and you have to solve some kind of puzzle. That's the idea that this is trying to convey, I think. But basically, what you're trying to do is play these cards in sequence, and you'll have columns where you're trying to go from the lowest to highest and highest to lowest, and trying to do that where you don't play cards that keep your allies from being able to play their cards is very challenging, because you can't go backwards for the most part. So you're trying to let each other know, I've got something pretty good here, but you cannot say anything specific. And that trying to communicate with each other subtly makes for a very unique gameplay, a very good cooperative game for trying to get rid of all the cards in your hand. Definitely a game that I would much rather play than Uno. Now, poker's one that, a lot of people like poker, and poker's one of those things that's its own beast, because there's a lot of gambling and wagering that goes on, and if you like that, then maybe nothing can really replace poker for you, just to be honest. But if you're a casual poker player, you just like the games like Texas Hold'em or whatever, this game gives you something that it gives it a lot more flavor. Basically, imagine Texas Hold'em, but you have spells that are unique to you. Each player has their own spells that they can use to control the cards and the pots of points in certain ways. Hocus does a really good job of making it to where it's not only is it different every time, but it gives you more power to control things in an interesting way. So for me, Hocus really makes poker something that's really, really enjoyable. I like that a lot. Okay, then we have Dragon Sword. In my opinion, this basically takes the place of set collection games like, say, Phase 10 and other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head. But set collection is something that a lot of people like. And in concept, I guess, I'm not a big fan of set collection games, and I guess because they're so dry in my opinion, generally speaking, but Dragon Sword does a good job of making it interesting. Why? You have treasure that you're trying to play. That's the sets that you're trying to make, and they have different colors. Originally, you don't necessarily care about sets, but what happens is you'll eventually put down a dragon's lair that's a certain color. And if you get more treasures of that color in that lair, you'll get more points. So you're trying to get certain colors, and doing that, you're also trying to keep your opponents from hurting you, because there are action cards that can let them steal cards from your hand or make you lose a turn. But you also have dragon cards that you can use to defend yourself. So in Dragon Sword, there's a lot going on. You're trying to play action cards, you're trying to play treasure cards, and you're having to weigh out the options of, do I want to use my actions as actions, or do I want to use them to play a treasure card? Because you have to use the cards in your hand to play treasures. So there's a lot of interesting options and thought process that goes on in this game, and I like the artwork, and I like dragons. So for me, it wins on all fronts, but I think anyone will appreciate that this is a very unique set collection game that it just adds a lot of theme and flavor. So I definitely recommend that for anyone who wants to upgrade to a good set collection game. Next, King of Tokyo. Obviously, as I've said in my review, this is kind of a Yahtzee style game, and it's definitely a Yahtzee killer for me. You're getting to roll dice, but they actually gave it a theme that's interesting. Who doesn't like Godzilla or any of those monster movies? You get to be the monster here. You're going into Tokyo, you're doing damage, and you're hurting other monsters who are trying to get into Tokyo, because everyone wants to be the king of Tokyo. And the way the dice work, the fact that they do different things. It's not just roll numbers and get points. There are numbers and points, but there's also attacking and healing, getting energy to buy cards. There's a lot more choices, there's a lot more interest going on here. And of course, if you get the expansions, like I mentioned in my review of the expansions, that adds a whole new layer of interest in making all of your characters more unique and specialized. So I highly recommend King of Tokyo as a replacement for an upgrade to Yahtzee. The Game of Life, another good example. The Game of Life maybe isn't quite as popular. I don't remember that being something that everyone had growing up, but I still know it's a popular game. Well, CV, which is Curriculum Vitae, basically it gives you that feeling of life, because you're rolling dice to be able to get, every time you roll, you'll get certain icons, and those icons will let you buy certain cards that are in the middle of the table. It's a public pool of cards. As you take turns, you're rolling dice, buying what you can, and things are going to slide off, so you can't buy every card. There'll be cards that go on, and no one will ever get them. So that's a good thing, because it makes it to where it kind of makes it different every time, depending on what cards are getting slid out. You don't get to buy them. But after you're done with the game, you get to, it doesn't really matter who won, because a lot of the fun in the game is going back to see what did your life entail. You'll see that you might have worked for your dad at his job. You might become a magician. You might have gotten married and had a kid. You might have got some kind of retirement plan and cashed in your 401k. And it's just fun and interesting to be able to go back through that and see what you did in your life in the game. So I guess it just gives that feel of life in a way that's more interesting, because you're making choices as you play, and also because you get to enjoy the aftermath and see, oh, look what I did, and you can laugh about it and just enjoy it. It's just a lighthearted and fun game that I highly recommend. Definitely an upgrade to the Game of Life for me. Another game that people have played in the past, I never owned it, I never played it, but I know it's a somewhat popular one that, it's been out in the market, is Guess Who. And Unusual Suspects does a good job of making that more interesting. Basically, Unusual Suspects, you take Guess Who, you make it cooperative, but there's two sides to this cooperation. Someone is a witness that saw a criminal, and everyone else plays the investigators trying to figure out who it was. You have a deck of cards, so you don't get to choose what you ask. The investigators draw a card and they ask that question. And that question can be helpful, but what will happen is they're always yes or no questions, and all that the witness can do is slide a card that's a yes or slide a card that's a no to answer it. They can't say anything because they're not allowed to give any inflection. That's because to make it to where you can't be like no or no. You can't add any extra. It is just yes or no, and everyone has to figure out, based on those, how do you eliminate the innocent people? And it's challenging, but it's also fun and interesting to see how people think whenever you'll ask a question like, is this person, do they like bowling? And and so people will, the investigators are trying to think, oh, really, they don't like bowling? Who doesn't like bowling? And a lot of the time it's easy to eliminate people, but it's not always as easy as you might think. And some of the questions get really interesting going into, maybe even the political spectrum or something else. And it's maybe not the best game, to be honest, for people who are a little sensitive. But if you're not a sensitive person, you can appreciate, to a certain extent that, people are just going to have fun trying to figure out, based on stereotypes, to be honest. I mean, that's really what this game is about. You're going off stereotypes and you're seeing how other people think. And honestly, I think that's interesting. I find that to be a very socially interesting experience. Some people might find it too much, and I know I've seen people who say they don't like it for that reason. Keep that in mind. But for me, it works well because you're cooperating and you're trying to figure out who the bad guy is based on limited information, and you're trying to do it as quickly as possible by turning over as many innocent people as possible per turn, per question. I like that a lot. So, in my opinion, a good upgrade for Guess Who. Y'all can decide if you can handle the controversial aspect of the game. Then we've got Monopoly. Let's go ahead and say Acquire is a great upgrade to Monopoly. Why? Acquire, you take away the no roll and move, which is great in my opinion. You've got these tiles you're drawing, you're putting them on the board, you're building your empire and your economy, and as you play, you're going to be able to do mergers and acquisitions and try to control other people's stuff. And it's interesting the way that works and the timing. And honestly, this is, in my opinion, a surprisingly well-designed and clean and relatively simple. I mean, this is actually a Hasbro Games published, is Avalon Hill and Hasbro. So it's relatively simple, and yet it does it in it gives you that economy feeling and wanting to be, owning properties in a much more dynamic and strategic way than Monopoly does. So right off the bat, Monopoly has to go, Acquire moves in, bam, take it to the bank. Then we've got Risk. Risk is one of those games, don't get me wrong, I've always liked the idea of Risk, but I could not stand the game. One, took too long. Two, you're rolling dice, and the defender can win just because they rolled 2 6s, and the attacker can't do anything about it. They could have 100 more men, they could be rolling all 6s, and it doesn't make a difference. All those cannons and troops and horsemen are literally just worthless nothing. They're just cannon fodder because the defense keeps rolling 6s. Could not stand that growing up. I mean, it just drove me nuts. Like this game, and there's plenty of other ones that you could choose to replace Risk, but a Game of Thrones, the board game, that is the game that this is what made me realize that I would really like board gaming. This is the one. It's not the first one I got, but this one took the cake because, and I didn't even know this was a book series or a movie or a HBO series. I didn't know any of that. I just found this and I thought, wow, that cover sure looks cool. And I found the instruction booklet online, read it, and I went, wow, I've got to get it. And I'm going to tell you, this game, it takes away almost all of the luck. So in here, you actually have units almost without a doubt if you can win. Now, the cool part is, even though you know if you could win, what you don't know is what cards your opponent's going to play. Every house, Starks, Lannister, whatever, they have their own hand of cards that's unique to them, and that's very powerful because suddenly, you might know you can win, but they might have a card that maybe causes a sort of an upset, or it might cause something that you don't really want to happen. So it's not as simple as my troops are more than yours, I win. There's actually a lot more going on in each combat, and you can support each other. So you could have a third player next door who's, depending on what they do on their turn, they could actually join in the battle and help one side or the other with their troops. And it's so much more interesting and so much less luck based. So wow, it's still long, don't get me wrong, but I don't mind it being long whenever I feel like I have a lot more control over my destiny. And this game gives me lots more strategic and tactical options. Wow, just completely crushes Risk for me. It would never go back. Now, last two. Suspend. This is a game that I might already have a review up by the time I post this, or I might not. But either way, whether or not I do, Suspend, basically it's Jenga in reverse. You're building the structure as the game, but it still has the same mechanic of if anything falls, that's bad for the person who placed their piece. And the fact that you don't have to have all the setup, and also the fact that in Suspend you have this balancing act going on, it's more enjoyable to play, it's more enjoyable to look at, and it just works better, and it's great for kids because it's easier. There's no setup like in Jenga, and it's just easy, I think, for them to place their pieces instead of trying to delicately move something out. It's just way better in my opinion. This Jenga killer by far, just no questions asked. Goodbye, Jenga. Hello, Suspend. And saving maybe the most relevant for last, I'm replacing chess with Onitama. Onitama is, because everyone, chess is, no one's going to deny, I don't think, that chess is a good game. It is a well-designed game. It's a classic, but chess is not for me. Why? Because there's too much of something. It's just, part of it is that every time I play, I start off the same. It's never different. So it gets kind of boring in that sense. And unless you're willing to really take the time to learn all of the strategy and everything in chess, you really can never compete with the pros at all. It's just too hard, and it's one of those things that I could just never really get into. Onitama takes chess, basically, that gives you way less pieces. You only have 5, and they all function identically except for the master. And the only difference that the master has is that he can actually, if he gets to the opponent's base, then you just automatically win with him. Apart from that, they're all the same. And they all move the same. They move based on the cards that you have. There are 5 cards on the table, 2 for each player and 1 over here to the side. And as you play, whenever you choose a card to make a movement with one of your pieces, you move that card to the side and you take the one that was there. So anything that you use, your opponent is going to get in a second. So what moves you can make are rotating out, so you have to plan ahead in a very unique way. And yet it's relatively quick and relatively simple. And there's a lot of different cards, so each game is very different. And there's even an expansion that adds even more cards. So there's lots of different things that'll happen in the game, and some cards give you very cool movements, and some of them are very straightforward movements. But the point is, everyone has access to the same movements throughout the game as you're playing, and they're getting them and trying to defeat the other side. And it works so well. It's clean. It's a dice tower essential, actually. So. Dice Tower really likes this game. Can't blame them. That's actually why I bought it, because it was a Dice Tower essential. I thought, you know what? I'm not a big abstract fan, but I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm glad I did. It's basically the best abstract that I own. So I'm really excited about that. Chess, sorry, you have to move to the side. Onitama, take the stand. And that pretty much sums it up for what I wanted to do for this video. It probably took too long, and I'm sorry if it did. But the thing is that I just want you to realize, all those games that you might have liked, or maybe you still do like, but you wish there could be more, you can get more. That's out there. My collection is hardly anything representative of what all's out there. So the point is, take this and you can run with it and find tons more. And and if there's a game that I didn't think about that's a classic that you'd like to have my opinion on, if there's a replacement for it, leave it down in the comments, and I'll try to do my best to come up with an answer for you. And in the meantime, I also want to recommend, the Dice Tower has a series where they did, I can't remember if they're all this way, but something like 10 games better than X game. I would look those up, because Tom Vassell does a great job of showing a similar idea. Taking a game like Uno, here are games that are better than that. Take a game like Scrabble or Monopoly, I can't remember all the ones that he did, here are 10 games better than that. That way you can see more options that are available to you. But in the meantime, I appreciate you watching the video. Thank you so much. And leave any comments down below, and I will get back to them and let you know if I can give you any help or advice, if there's more that you'd like to see. And I don't know, I just really appreciate you watching it. And if you enjoyed this video, if you'd subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. I will see you then. Take care. Bye.